Have you ever had those moments? You open your eyes, stare at the ceiling, and the first thought that pops into your head is, another one of these days. It is not because the day holds any particular hardship, but because you already know exactly what will happen. You know what time you will get out of bed, which outfit you will wear, which people you will encounter on the way, and what kind of red notifications will blink on your to-do list. You even know which video platform you will open after dinner, and exactly which short clip will make you feel bored. It feels like stepping into a rerun of a TV series. You remember the plot, you know all the characters, yet you still have to play it out, even though you stopped finding it entertaining long ago. You start losing your sense of time. A week, a year, passes almost without a trace. You flip through the calendar, yet you feel no spark of interest for any upcoming date. You cannot even recall the last thing you genuinely looked forward to. On the surface, everything looks normal. There is no emotional breakdown, no sudden resignation, no outburst of, "I cannot take this anymore." You still work, attend meetings, reply to friends' messages. But in some hidden corner of your heart, a grey curtain has quietly fallen. People often say life is full of surprises, yet you stop believing it. You no longer think today will differ from yesterday in any way. You even begin to fear change. Because in this boring yet familiar repetition, there is at least a sliver of predictable safety. This state defies pinpointing what went wrong. There is no pain, no bad. You are simply trapped in a world called, "I can keep enduring this." There is no crying out, only silence. You may have tried to explain this feeling. Is it because work is too exhausting, social life too empty, or daily routine too plain? But you also know these explanations do not quite fit. They are like a key that barely fits the lock, yet never turns the mechanism. So you smile and say, things are fine. Perhaps this is just what being an adult looks like. Only sometimes, when you wake up in the middle of the night, you cannot help but ask yourself, is this all there is to me? You have not stopped living. You still clock in on time, respond to messages promptly. You tell others everything is good lately, adding a smile so they do not worry. You share weekend photos, picking one with a clear latte art composition, captioning it, "This place is not bad." You keep pace with the city's rhythm, performing the role of a functioning adult. You have not collapsed. You have simply grown quieter. It is not that you do not want to speak. You just realize speaking changes nothing. You have tried expressing fatigue, but everyone says, "Who isn't like this?" So you learn to skip the opening of every potential confession. You tell yourself, just get through today. It is not terrible, nor particularly good. It is like opening the delivery app and always ordering from the same few places. You cannot be bothered to try new flavors. Food no longer excites you. You eat to be full, then move on to the next part of life. You also scroll through short videos or reread old messages. It is not for real relaxation, but to fill time. It is like using noise to cover the emptiness inside. Compared to silence, you fear the hollow echo in your mind more. You appear steady. Friends even see you as reliable. Because you do not make a fuss, you stay composed, you are punctual, you speak politely. But you know that behind this stable facade, you are gradually folding parts of yourself away. You become skilled at saying, "I'm fine," skilled at smiling, then changing the subject. Skilled at not asking, not touching, not overthinking. You even start wondering if this really is easier. You grow accustomed to expecting nothing. It is not that you do not want more. You fear disappointment. You tell yourself that undisturbed calm is a form of happiness. Yet sometimes this calm feels eerily quiet. You do not feel like you are acting. This is not pretense. You have simply grown used to hiding, to tucking the off parts deep inside, to compressing "I want more" into "I can manage." You have not paused, you just feel less alive. You are not unaware that you have changed. You just cannot pinpoint where it started. You may occasionally think about change, switch jobs, move cities, start over. But every time the thought emerges, another voice says, "Forget it, do not bother." You nod and continue cooking, washing dishes, replying to messages, as if nothing happened. This is not laziness or lack of drive. It is an unnoticed freeze, a protective mechanism that keeps you in familiar territory, rejecting any fluctuation. Your life repeats, but what truly repeats is your fear of change. That fear is not specific. It is not like facing failure or criticism directly. It is more like a programmed command in your body. Do not alter the status quo, or you will get hurt. In psychology, there is a term called emotional protective repetition. When we experience moments of loss of control, trauma, or blows, the brain subconsciously chooses homeostasis to avoid re-injury. It leads you to make familiar choices, select familiar people, and replicate old paths, even if those paths no longer suit the current you. This is why you feel like "I'm going in circles." It is not that you are truly immobile. You are repeatedly walking within your self-defined safe zone. You avoid risks, not because you are timid. It is because you tried once, and the cost was too high. You expressed true feelings and were dismissed. You pushed for a breakthrough and ended up with chaos and loss of control. So you learned to retreat to the starting point. You told yourself, stability matters most. You convinced yourself, this is good enough. You gradually stopped expecting, planning, imagining. This is not uncommon. Many people use repetition as life's default template. We live in an environment that emphasizes efficiency and goals. Deviating from the track feels like a mistake. So you keep returning to that seemingly normal state, even though it no longer nourishes you. You are not without desire for a different life. You just grew too used to suppressing desire. After suppressing it long enough, you think you never had it. But please pause for a moment and consider, do you really not want a new beginning? Have you never imagined another version of yourself? Perhaps you once had passion, plans, curiosity. But now those are folded into a posture of "I must be mature." You choose repetition not because you love it, but because you fear losing the last bit of control. What you do not realize is that this repeatedly self-soothing stability is quietly eroding your genuine connection to the world. You stop expressing yourself. You stop trying new things. You stop believing change brings good. But this is not your fault. It is not a flaw in you. It is simply a protection you built while trying to survive. Repetition is not cowardice. It is your way of confronting uncertainty. You are not bad. You just have not truly felt alive for too long. You were not always like this. You once looked forward to the future with excitement. You believed life held infinite possibilities. Every decision felt like opening a door. Walking down the street, you might suddenly take a longer detour. Talking with someone, you would share untold dreams and ideas. Back then, you understood living as being able to choose. You trusted your intuition, believed you would be heard. Until one day, you voiced an untimely idea and received a casual, "Do not overthink it." You said nothing, but you remembered. You remembered the you that was not taken seriously. You may recall that argument. You gathered courage to state your boundaries, only to be called too sensitive. So you learned to hide dissatisfaction deeper. Perhaps in a relationship. You clearly felt uncared for, yet maintained the understanding role because you did not want to be emotional. You chose forgiveness, tolerance, suppression, not because it did not hurt, but because you feared loss. You may have tried to change something, But every initiative felt like pushing a door 10 times your weight. You knocked with all your strength, yet the door never opened for you. You gradually lost confidence in trying. You stopped being curious about change, stopped approaching new things. You told yourself, let nature take its course. But you know that is not true letting go. It is do not get rejected again in disguise. Maybe there was no single event, just day after day, of disappointments, awkward silences, misunderstandings, being overlooked, slowly pulling you into a no more effort state. You stopped wanting to prove yourself. You felt proving anything to anyone was pointless. Over time, you accepted the not much ups and downs, but nothing wrong life track. It is not bad, just colorless. It does not hurt, just too still. You thought you were accepting reality. But actually, you were slowly exiting the stage, leaving only an okay outline. What you do not know is that the moment you learned repetition, it was not because you liked it, but because you understood too early that taking initiative has a price. You did not abandon passion. You were reminded too many times that passion is useless. You started crafting explanations for yourself. You no longer asked, why did I change? But slowly accepted, this is just who I am. You began labeling yourself. I am not ambitious. My personality is quiet. I was never good at expressing emotions. I do not have big goals. I do not like upheaval. You say these lightly. Others find them reasonable. But you know they are not the real you. They are statements you honed after colliding with the world to avoid further pain. You turned disappointments into whatever. You turned unspoken words into, I really do not care. You turned impulses to reach out, fight for, change into, this is fine now. You are not without emotions. You just understand too well the cost of expression. So you developed an almost automatic psychological formula. If I stay silent, I will not be misunderstood. If I do not get close, I will not be abandoned. If I expect nothing, I will not be struck. If I repeat yesterday today, at least I will not err. You thought this was maturity. You thought this was steadiness. You even thought this was seeing through life's essence. But actually, you were trading controllable repetition for a fragile inner balance. Over time, these safety strategies became your rules. Rules silently written into your life script. Do not be too flashy. It invites envy. Do not be too enthusiastic. It leads to misunderstanding. Do not get too close. It hurts more. Do not seek big changes. That is for the young. You even start passing these rules to others. You advise friends to endure. Tell them, do not be too emotional. You suggest to juniors, stay steady, do not job hop often. You do not mean to. You are just too familiar with this pain avoidance method. You thought you were just emotionally calm, but you did not realize your connection to yourself was slowly weakening. You hid those pulsing things so long that you nearly forgot they existed. You find it harder to feel excited about anything, harder to be truly moved. You always say nothing special, but that is not fewer feelings. It is the ability to allow feelings that got switched off. Relationships feel distant, not because someone did wrong, but because you stopped approaching first. You no longer start new topics, dive deep, share complex thoughts. You say everyone is busy. Actually, you retreated first. You say I want less and less. You rarely say no. Your vocabulary becomes safe, proper, predictable. But it also loses edge, heat, vitality. You did not realize the deepest cost of this self-freeze is not life's boredom, but an invisible glass wall between you and your true self. You look out the window feeling like a bystander. You go through life but do not truly participate. This is the unseen, yet profoundly real erosion. It is not intense like pain. It just slowly pulls you away from who you wanted to become, day by day. You never collapsed, but you are indeed losing yourself bit by bit. But you stopped. Perhaps on an ordinary morning, while scrolling your phone, you suddenly freeze. Looking at screens full of people, scenes, sounds unrelated to your life, you realize it has been so long since you truly felt something. Perhaps at a dinner with friends, listening to stories of travel, quitting jobs, moving, arguments, romance. You smile and nod, but suddenly feel you are only hearing stories. These things are so far from you. You start to notice it is not that you have no emotions, but that you learn too well to shut them off. It is not that you are naturally calm, but that you learn too early. Excitement brings misunderstanding. Desire brings risk. Authenticity brings pain. You are not truly numb. You have just been protecting yourself with silence, repetition, restraint. You begin to recall the you who was willing to try, easily moved, full of imagination never disappeared. He is just hidden beneath layers of maturity and steadiness, waiting for you to allow him back. You are not weak. You just went too long without being told. You do not have to stay armored. You are not indifferent. You just went too long without being gently understood. You start telling yourself, I am not a failure. I just feared failing for too long. I am not without passion. I just suppressed it habitually. I do not resist change. I was just scared by it. In that moment, you realize what you thought was personality is actually armor built from past letdowns. The armor protected you for years, but now it traps you. You are not the problem. You just learned to evade problems with repetition after experiencing them. This is not your fault. Truly, it is not. You did your best to survive under the circumstances, using the safest way to preserve yourself. You deserve to be seen, not as someone who keeps holding on, but as someone who finally starts laying down the burden. You are not silent. You are slowly learning to speak. You are not dull. You are relearning to feel. You are not slow. You are finally regaining sensation. You do not have to become someone else. You only need to gently start approaching yourself. Not by immediately becoming passionate, adventurous, flipping the page, but by allowing small deviations from the track. Even just one small thing, take a different route home. Buy a flower you never tried. Wake up 10 minutes early to stare out the window. Or when someone asks, what do you want to eat? Stop saying anything and name what you truly crave right now. Not because these acts matter greatly, but because they are the beginning of reconnecting with your own perception. You will discover those feelings you hid never truly vanished. They just slept too long and now need you to wake them gently, bit by bit. You will also find you may still slip back into familiar repetition sometimes, but this time you notice. You know it is the old mechanism at work, not your only choice. Healing is not a straight line. It is like a river, slowly curving, sometimes looping back, sometimes still, but eventually flowing to wider places. You do not have to rush to get better. You only need to give yourself a little room, a little space, a little blame-free breath. Sometimes the repetition feeling will return. You may still have blank days, still feel dazed and powerless at midnight. But you start to understand that is not my life is meaningless, but you bidding farewell to past automatic patterns. You begin accepting you are not always efficient, always clear-headed. You allow yourself to be blurry sometimes, stuck sometimes. You admit many moments in life are unsolvable, yet you are willing to keep moving forward slowly. Not to dazzle the world, just to feel a bit of real warmth again for yourself. Perhaps one day, you will stand in the twilight of an unfamiliar city, no longer hurried, no longer weary. Watching the repeating yet gentle daily lights in the distance, you suddenly think, "Ah, so this is being alive." Then you softly tell yourself, healing is not becoming someone new. It is remembering who you were before fear.